All right, so get this. Today, we're diving into the future of coding. Not just some like incremental update. We're talking a full-on AI revolution.
Right.
And at the heart of it is this cutting-edge code editor called Cursor. Have you heard of
Oh,
this?
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's wild how much the programming landscape has changed, right?
Totally.
Remember the days of, like, memorizing syntax, chasing down missing semicolons at 3 a.m.?
Oh, yeah.
Now we're talking about AI that practically reads your mind and writes the code for you.
Seriously, tell me about it.
It's crazy.
It's like we're on the verge of coding telepathically or something.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Cursor isn't just another AI assistant, tacked onto an existing editor. The team behind it decided to build a completely new editor from scratch.
Yeah, that's right. They saw the limitations of plugins and extensions. To really harness the power of AI, they knew they needed a more integrated approach, something built from the ground up for this new era of coding.
So they said, why mess around with add-ons? Let's build the green coding experience from the ground up. I have to admit, it's a bold move. What drove them to make such a drastic decision?
Well, they saw how rapidly AI was evolving, especially with models like, GPT-4. They realized that to stay ahead of the curve, they needed the freedom to experiment, to push boundaries without being limited by existing architectures.
It's like they said, forget the rule book, we're building the future of coding here. But speed and agility aren't everything, right? They also needed to deeply understand what programmers like you actually need.
Absolutely. And that's where their dog fooding approach comes in.
Dog food.
Yeah, so the Cursor team is building the editor they themselves want to use, so they're constantly testing and refining it based on their own experiences as developers.
Okay, so they're not just some corporate execs sitting in a boardroom detached from the actual coding trenches. They're right there with us, using the tools they're building every single day.
Precisely. And that gives them a huge advantage. They're not just keeping up with the AI Joneses.
Yeah.
They're anticipating where things are going and making sure Cursor stays ahead of the pack.
I'm already hooked.
Yeah.
They're clearly not afraid to shake things up and challenge the status quo. This begs the question, what exactly makes Cursor so revolutionary?
Well, one of the key innovations is their flagship feature, Cursor Tab. Imagine this. You're coding, and instead of typing out every single character, you simply hit Tab, and the AI predicts your next move, sometimes even completing entire blocks of code.
Hold on, this isn't your grandpa's autocomplete. We're talking about AI that can practically finish your sentences for you. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we dive into the magic of Cursor Tab, we need to understand the foundation upon which this revolution is built.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Let's take a look at what's happening behind the scenes, at the core of Cursor's AI engine. That's where things get really interesting.
All right, so we're talking about AI that can practically read our minds and finish our code. But how does Cursor actually pull this off? What's the secret sauce?
Well, a big part of it is how they've designed Cursor to handle the flood of information it needs to make these predictions. It's not just looking at the few lines around your cursor, it's analyzing your entire code base in real time.
Whoa, that's a lot of data to process.
Ooh.
My code can be messy sometimes. Are you telling me this thing can actually make sense of it all?
You got it. They're using some seriously powerful AI models, but they've also come up with some super clever optimization tricks. Think of it like this. You wouldn't expect a race car to run on regular gasoline, right?
Okay, that's a good analogy. So they've fine-tuned Cursor's engine to handle this massive amount of data without slowing down.
Exactly. They use techniques like caching, which is like storing the answers to common questions, so the AI doesn't have to recalculate them every time. And then there's speculative decoding, where the AI is actually guessing what you're going to type next and preloading the code in the background.
So it's like Cursor is always one step ahead, anticipating my needs before I even know them. That's mind-blowing.
It is. And it gets even better. Cursor doesn't just spit out code blindly. It presents its suggestions in a way that's super easy to understand and work with. It's all about diffs.
Diffs, like those colored lines you see in Git when you're comparing different versions of a file.
You know it. But Cursor takes it to the next level, optimizing the diffs for readability, especially within the context of rapid coding.
So instead of showing me a wall of changes, it highlights the important parts, making it easier to quickly understand and accept or reject the AI's suggestions. Genius.
Precisely. They've put a ton of effort into making this process as smooth as possible because they know that trust is paramount when you're working with AI-generated code.
That makes total sense. I mean, it's one thing to have an AI writing code for you, but I still want to be in the driver's seat, making sure I understand what's happening and why.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue into another crucial aspect of Cursor. It's not just about generating code, it's about understanding your code base on a much deeper level. This is where things get really meta.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this deeper understanding. We're going beyond just spitting out lines of code, right?
Mhm.
How does Cursor achieve this next level comprehension?
It all starts with something they call a shadow workspace. Picture this. The AI is working in the background, analyzing your code, running tests, even trying out different code modifications, all within this separate shadow version of your project.
So it's like having a virtual assistant who's constantly testing out different scenarios and optimizations without affecting my actual code. That sounds incredibly useful, especially for larger projects where even small changes can have ripple effects throughout the code base.
You hit the nail on the head. And because it's doing all this behind the scenes, it can anticipate your needs, suggest more relevant code snippets, and even proactively identify potential bugs or areas for improvement.
Okay, this shadow workspace sounds like a game changer. It's like having an AI guardian angel watching over your code, making sure everything runs smoothly. But how does it even keep track of everything? We're talking potentially thousands, even millions of lines of code.
That's where code indexing comes into play. It's like creating a detailed map of your entire code base, but instead of just streets and landmarks, it's functions, variables, and how they all connect to each other.
So it's not just indexing the text itself, but understanding the actual relationships and meanings within the code. That's some next level stuff.
Exactly. And because of this deep understanding, Cursor can do things that were previously unthinkable. Imagine being able to ask your code base complex questions in plain English, like find all the functions that modify this variable, or show me all the places where this API call is used.
No more digging through endless files trying to remember where I put that one function. This is starting to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie. That's like Cursor is giving you the ability to converse with your code base, to have an actual dialogue with it.
You're catching on. And the best part is this is just the tip of the iceberg. The Cursor team has even bigger plans for the future. They're working on features that could fundamentally change how we think about programming.
Okay, now you're really piquing my curiosity. We've covered a lot of ground already, from the underlying AI engine to the magic of Cursor tab and the shadow workspace. What else do they have up their sleeves? What does the future hold for Cursor and the future of coding itself?
Well, one area where they're pushing the boundaries is in the realm of AI agents. Imagine having specialized AI program that can perform specific coding tasks autonomously, guided by your high-level instructions.
Hold on, autonomous AI agents. It's like having a team of expert programmers at my beck and call, each specializing in a particular area of software development. That sounds both exhilarating and maybe a little bit terrifying all at the same time. Tell me more.
That's the future they're building towards. And to get there, they're diving deep into some of the most cutting-edge areas of AI research. We're talking about things like reinforcement learning, where the AI learns by trial and error, and knowledge distillation, where the knowledge of massive AI models is distilled into smaller, more efficient ones that can run on your local machine.
Okay, now we're getting into the really bleeding edge. But before we get lost in the weeds of AI research, let's bring it back to you, the listener. What does all of this mean for you and your coding journey?
It means you're on the cusp of a paradigm shift. Imagine a world where coding is no longer about battling syntax errors and debugging endless lines of code. Instead, it's about translating your ideas into reality with unprecedented speed and fluidity.
Hmm.
It's about having an AI partner that helps you at every step of the way, from generating code to finding and fixing bugs to even learning and evolving alongside you.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a coding renaissance, a new era where AI empowers us to create things we could only dream of before. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still haven't dived into the nitty-gritty of how Cursor's AI is actually trained and optimized. That's where the real magic happens, and that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Absolutely. Buckle up, because we're about to go even deeper into the world of AI coding.
All right, we've seen what Cursor can do, but now let's roll up our sleeves and talk about how it actually learns to be so darn good. It's like, how do you teach an AI to code like a pro?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to this thing called prompt engineering. Imagine you're giving the AI a creative writing assignment. It needs the right prompts to get those creative juices flowing right.
So it's not just about telling the AI, write me a function. It's about crafting a specific, detailed request that gives it all the context it needs to write code that's not just technically correct, but actually fits with my style and the overall project.
You nailed it. And the Cursor team has become like expert prompt engineers. They're even using this technique called pre-rendering, where they break down complex prompts into smaller chunks so the AI can really digest the information and produce even more accurate code.
So it's like giving the AI a chance to brainstorm before diving into the actual writing process. Smart. But what about one of the biggest pains in every programmer's life? Bugs. Can AI really help us squash those pesky critters?
Now, that's the holy grail, isn't it?
Right.
While Cursor's AI is great at writing code, bug detection is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Turns out, even with all the code out there aren't enough real-world examples of bug detection to train these models effectively.
So it's like trying to teach someone to play basketball by only showing them highlight reels. They're not seeing all the missed shots and fouls that are part of the game.
Exactly. But the Cursor team isn't giving up. They're actually training specialized AI models specifically for bug detection.
Now that's dedication. So instead of just throwing a general purpose AI at the problem, they're creating specialized agents trained to sniff out those bugs. That's reassuring. What kind of approaches are they using for this bug hunting AI?
One technique that blew my mind is something called reverse bug modeling. Instead of teaching the AI to find bugs directly, they actually train it to introduce bugs into existing code.
Wait a minute, you're telling me they're intentionally making the AI write buggy code? That seems counterintuitive, to say the
I
least.
know, right? But here's the genius part. By teaching the AI to create bugs realistically, they can then use that data to train another AI specifically to detect and fix those same types of bugs.
So it's like training a detective by having them study the methods of master criminals. The more they understand how bugs are created, the better equipped they are to find and neutralize them. Pretty slick.
Absolutely. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're also experimenting with giving the AI access to even more information, like runtime data and your own comments, to help it understand the code's behavior and context.
Okay, this is starting to sound less like a code editor and more like a full-blown AI coding partner. But let's address the elephant in the room, the future of programming itself. With AI becoming so powerful, are human programmers going to be out of a job soon?
That's the question everyone's asking.
Yeah.
While it's true that AI will likely automate certain tasks, the Cursor team sees it as an opportunity rather than a threat.
Okay.
They believe that AI will free us from the drudgery of coding, allowing us to focus on the more creative and strategic aspects of software development.
So instead of being replaced by AI, we'll be working alongside it, collaborating to build even more amazing things. It's like having a superpower. But how realistic is this vision of humans and AI coding in perfect harmony?
That's what they're working towards, and they're not just talking the talk. They're actively involved in promoting AI education and literacy, ensuring that developers have the skills they need to thrive in this new era.
That's crucial. We need to make sure everyone has the opportunity to learn these new skills and be a part of this AI-powered future. It's not just about building cool tech, it's about building a better future for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that, my friend, is the essence of what makes Cursor so much more than just another code editor. It's a vision for the future of coding, a future where AI and humans collaborate to create software that's not just powerful, but also beneficial and accessible to all.
Well said. It seems like we're on the cusp of a new era in programming, and I, for one, am incredibly excited to see what the future holds. A big thanks to the Cursor team for giving us a peek behind the curtain and showing us what's possible when human ingenuity and artificial intelligence join forces. Until next time, keep on coding.